Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am so glad you are here. Today we are diving into one of the most powerful topic for circuit analysis, the superposition theorem. We will see what is superposition theorem and how to use this theorem. The superposition theorem states that in any linear bilateral network with multiple sources, like here in this circuit, two independent sources are powering this circuit. Now the response, meaning the voltage or current in any branch, is the algebraic sum of the responses produced by each independent source acting alone, with all other independent sources are replaced by their internal resistance. Essentially, we turn off all sources except one to find the value we need and then add the results together at the end. Before we start, we must ensure our circuit is actually eligible for the superposition theorem. On the left, we see unilateral circuit, commonly using components like diodes or transistors. They allow current to flow in one direction and change properties if supply polarity reverses. On the right, we have bilateral circuits. They permit current flow in both directions, maintain same properties regardless of polarity, typically consisting resistors, capacitors or inductors. To execute superposition theorem, the circuit must be a linear bilateral circuit. But what does that actually mean? First one, linearity. This means the circuit must follow Ohm's law. The parameters like resistance, inductance and capacitance must remain constant and cannot change regardless how much voltage or current you pump through them. Next, bilaterality. The circuit behavior must remain identical no matter which direction the current flows or how the voltage polarity is set. Next, standard components like resistors, inductors and capacitors fit this description perfectly, making them the primary candidates for this analysis. By using superposition theorem, the core idea is to find the voltage or current response in any element by calculating the effect of each independent source acting alone. Here we first look at the 8-volt source acting alone while ignoring the current source. Then we will do the exact opposite. Finally, we take the algebraic sum of those individual results to get the total response. But how exactly do we ignore a source? Let's look at the rules for that. To analyze one source at a time, we must replace all other independent sources with their internal resistance. Here are the two golden rules you need to memorize. Ideal voltage sources. These have zero series internal resistance, so we replace them with a short circuit. Ideal current sources. These have infinite parallel internal resistance, so we replace them with an open circuit. Next, dependent sources. Unlike independent sources, dependent sources remains on during this analysis. Do not short or open them. Here are some critical don'ts. First one, this theorem is not valid for nonlinear circuits. Second one, it is not applicable for power calculations because power is nonlinear. P is equal to I square R. Third one, however, it is incredibly useful for circuits that contain sources with different frequencies, allowing you to solve for each one independently. Let's put everything we have learned into practice with an example. Our goal is to find both the current passing through and the voltage across this specific 4 ohm resistor using the superposition theorem. This central branch is our focus. For our first step, we will keep the 8-volt source active while simultaneously suppressing the 4 amps current source with its internal resistance. Let's see how the circuit changes. Since 4 amp source is an ideal current source, we replace it with an open circuit. This leaves us with a simple series loop of 8-volt source with 6 ohms and 4 ohm resistors. You can see a break in wire here, meaning no current can flow through that right hand branch. Here this 8-volt source only pushes current through the 6 ohms and 4 ohm resistors. We will call this current I1. Using Ohm's law, I1 equals the total voltage divided by the total resistance. So I1 equals to 8 volts divided by 6 ohms plus 4 ohms. This gives us a current of 0.8 amps flowing through the central branch due to the 8 volt source alone. Now that we have the current, finding the corresponding voltage is straightforward. We are looking for the voltage drop specially across this 4 ohms resistor. We call this V1. Following the standard V equals to I into R formula, we multiply our new current I1 by that 4 ohms resistance. That is 0.8 into 4. This results a voltage of 3.2 volts. Keep these values 0.8 ohms and 3.2 volts in mind. In the next step, we will reset the circuit to see what happens when we turn the current source back on and short the voltage source. This time we are going to flip the script. We will start by suppressing the 8 volt source and we will activate the 4 amp independent current source. Our goal remains the same, to determine the current and voltage for this 4 ohm resistor. Before we calculate, we have to modify the circuit diagram to reflect our suppressed source. This 8 volt source is an ideal voltage source because it has 0 series internal resistance. We replace it with short circuit. So our new network looks like this. For sake of simplicity, we can redraw this circuit like this. The 4 ampere source is in series with 8 ohm resistor with 2 parallel resistors of 4 ohms and 6 ohms. And at this node, the 4 amp current will divide between 4 ohms and 6 ohm resistors. We label them as I1 dash and I2. Here this 8 ohm resistor is in series with the source, hence it won't affect the division of current. Let's find out the I1 dash. To find the current through the 4 ohm resistor, we use the current division rule. The formula for I1 dash is the total current 4 amp multiplied by the opposite resistance 6 ohms divided by the sum of the two resistance 6 ohms plus 4 ohms. Simplifying that gives us 4 into 6 by 10, resulting 2.4 amperes. Finally, to get the voltage at 4 ohm resistor, we just use Ohm's law again. We call it as V1 dash, that equals to I1 dash into 4 ohms, that is 2.4 amperes into 4 ohms, which gives us 9.6 volts. Now the final step of the superposition theorem, that is algebraic sum of our individual responses. First, let's look at the current. We found 0.8 amperes from the first source and 2.4 amperes from the second. Adding them together, the total current I through the 4 ohm resistor is 3.2 amperes. Now for the voltage, we had 3.2 volts from our first calculation and 9.6 volts from our second. This gives us a total voltage drop of 12.8 volts. And thus it is. By breaking the circuit down and looking at each source one at a time, we solved a complex network with ease. Let's solve one more example. It is a common challenge when we applying the superposition theorem. In this example, we have a linear resistive network with 3 independent sources. The problem states that when each source acting alone, the power dissipated across load resistor R is 12 watts, 48 watts and 75 watts respectively. Our goal is to find the maximum and minimum possible power when all 3 are acting at the same time. Now we know our standard power formulas. P equals to I square R. Otherwise, P equals to V square divided by R. Since it is a linear network, we might be tempted just use superposition on the power values themselves. But stop right here. This is a major trap. Superposition applies to linear quantities like current and voltage, not for power. As you can see here, the total power is not simply the sum of individual powers. Because power is proportional to the square of the current, we cannot simply add or subtract these wattage values. To solve this, we have to go back to the source, the current. So how do we actually solve this? The rule is simple. Use superposition theorem to find the total current or voltage first. We find the individual currents, add or subtract them depending on their direction, and then square the total to find the final power. If we see the power formula, P equals to I square R. To make it easy, square root of P equals to I square root of R. For our first source P1 is 12 watt. Taking the square root, we get square root of 12. We can simplify this to 2 root 3. For the second source P2 is 48 watt. The square root of 48 simplifies down to 4 root 3. And for the third P3 is 75 watts, which gives us a square root of 5 root 3. Now that we have these relative power values 2 root 3, 4 root 3 and 5 root 3. Now let's visualize how to achieve the maximum possible power. Here the maximum power occurs when the currents from all three sources flow through the resistor R in the same direction, so they add up constructively. This gives us the largest possible total current to square. Let's put the numbers to work and calculate the maximum value. From the previous step, 2 root 3, 4 root 3 and 5 root 3 represent I square root R values for each source. To find the maximum, we simply sum these terms together. The total I max root R is the sum of I1 root R, I2 root R and I3 root R. Adding them up, 2 plus 4 plus 5 gives us a total of 11 root 3. Now to find the actual power, we square this entire sum. P max equals to 11 root 3 whole square. Squaring 11 gives us 121 and squaring root 3 gives us 3. Multiplying 121 into 3, we get a final maximum power of 363 watts. Notice that how this is significantly higher than just adding the original power values together. 12 plus 48 plus 75, 135 watt. Now let's see the opposite scenario. How do we find the minimum power dissipated in this circuit? As the principle states, a minimum power occurs when the currents flow in opposite direction, cancelling each other out as much as possible. Let's look at the math to see which combinations of these current coefficients 2, 4 and 5 gives us the absolute minimum value. We test different directions. If we have 5 plus 2 minus 4, we get a magnitude of 3. But look at the second option. If we take 5 minus 4 minus 2, the result is minus 1. Since we are interested in magnitude, mod of minus 1 gives us 1. Now we apply power formula using this minimum power. P minimum equals the square of 1 root 3. 1 squared is 1 and the square root of 3 squared is 3. This gives us minimum power of only 3 watts. Just compare this minimum and maximum powers. By simply changing the direction of the sources, the power dissipation changes by more than 100 times. This perfectly demonstrates why we must always calculate current or voltage first when using the superposition theorem for power. Now let's tackle a more advanced problem. We need to find the power dissipated across this 4 ohm resistor. Notice that this circuit contains two independent sources, a 12 volt voltage source and a 3 ampere current source, plus a dependent source 2Vx, which is controlled by the voltage across the 2 ohm resistor. To use superposition theorem, we will analyze the circuit in two cases. In case 1, we will keep the 12 volt source active and turn off the 3 ampere current source. Remember, we never turn off dependent sources. Let's look at case 1. When we turn off an ideal current source, it becomes an open circuit. Hence, the new circuit will look like this. With that branch open, we have a single loop. Let's define the current flowing through this loop as I dash. First, let's find Vx. Since I dash is flowing into the negative terminal of the 2 ohm resistor, then Vx is equals to negative 2 times I dash, that equals to minus 2 I dash. Now applying Kirchhoff voltage law around the loop, that states the algebraic sum of all voltages around any closed loop in a circuit is 0. So here we have 12 volt plus Vx plus dependent source 2Vx minus the voltage drop across the 4 ohm resistor, that is 4 I dash. Setting that to 0 gives us our equation. Here we can substitute minus 2 I dash instead of Vx in this equation. So the new equation will be 12 minus 2 I dash minus 4 I dash minus 4 I dash equals to 0. If we simplify this, then 12 minus 10I dash equals to 0. Now we find that 12 equals to 10I dash. Therefore I dash equals to 12 by 10. That gives us I dash equals to 1.2 amperes. So we find out that 1.2 amperes is flowing through the 4 ohm resistor for our first case. Now let's reset and look at case 2, where only 3 ampere current source is active. To turn off an ideal voltage source, we replace it with a short circuit. Our 12 volt source becomes a wire allowing the 3 ampere source to drive the network. This circuit is a bit more complex, so we will use nodal analysis. We will label this main node as A and the node above 4 ohm resistor as B, and here the bottom wire is our 0 volt reference. Here we label this voltage at node A is VA and this voltage at node B is VB. First, let's identify our voltages. Here, because of this 3 ampere current source, let's assume that the voltage drop across this 2 ohm resistor is Vx double dash. This Vx double dash is simply the voltage at node A relative to ground. Here, the dependent source voltage becomes 2Vx double dash. This dependent source is connected between node A and B. So, we can write Vb minus Va equals to 2Vx double dash. Here from above equations we can consider Vx double dash equals to Va. So we simplify this equation. Vb equals to Va plus 2Va, that equals to 3Va. So we find that Vb equals to 3Va. Now let's assume that the current flowing through this 4 ohm resistor as I double dash. Here we can write this I double dash as voltage across this resistor, that is Vb divided by resistance 4 ohms. Substituting 3Va for Vb, we can write I double dash equals to 3Va by 4. Now let's apply Kirchhoff's current law at this node A. That is, entering current is equals to the sum of the leaving currents. Here 3 ampere is entering current, that is equals to current flowing through 2 ohm resistor, that is Va by 2, plus current flowing through this 4 ohm resistor, that is I double dash. We can substitute I double dash value as 3Va by 4. So this equation becomes Va by 2 plus 3Va by 4. If we simplify this, total current 3 equals to 5Va by 4. If we further simplify this equation, we will get Va value as 2.4 volts. Here we know that the current I double dash equals to Vb by 4. We can write Vb as 3Va. So this equals to 3Va by 4. Substituting Va value 2.4 volts, we get I double dash value as 1.8 amperes. Finally, let's bring everything together to find the total power. We sum our individual currents. 1.2 amperes from case 1 plus 1.8 amperes from case 2 gives us a total current of 3 amperes. Now that we have the total current, we can calculate the power dissipated by the 4 ohm resistor. 3 squared is 9 and 9 times 4 gives us the final answer of 36 watts. So by using superposition theorem, we have found currents first. We have successfully navigated the complexity of the dependent source. I hope this deep dive into superposition theorem and power calculations helps you in your studies or your next electronic project. If you find this walkthrough helpful, please click the like button and share this with your classmates and friends. Please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new tutorial here on electronics. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.